affectionate touch, there's two types of touch. There's the kind of touch, you touch your children, you give a child a hug. A child that didn't get hugged and he's growing up will suffer. He needs to be touched and hugged and comforted. Yeah? So now the problem is a second a man touches his wife in an affectionate way, right? Quite often in many relationships, in her mind, it's like he's saying he's expecting something to happen that's going to end up going beyond that. And when the relationship is like that, it's a tremendous pressure on a woman, and she doesn't feel the affection anymore. She just feels that she has to do her duty as a wife. And it's not healthy. So there has to be a way in the relationship that there must be a non-sensual type of affectionate touch from time to time. And women have to spend time together and find out what it works, whether it's holding hands, or just put your arm, or just going like that, or passing something and just leaving it, whatever it is, obviously at the right time of the month. He has to ask her what she likes. What she like her shoulders to have his hand on, or does it hold, the different requirements of different people. But whenever it's convenient in the relationship, that should be present. If that's not present, then that's one type of affection that's being missed in the relationship. And affection is something which a woman needs. This type of affection. It doesn't mean a man doesn't enjoy affection. A man can also enjoy affection. But if a woman doesn't touch his shoulder every day, it might not have the same impact of a man that never touches his wife in the same way. It's not like for like. It's a different situation. Okay. So that's one thing. That's affectionate touch. Now there's another type of affection which is called affectionate tones. Okay? If anybody does any kind of presentations, or if you're a teacher and you know about different forms of presenting information, whether it's a didactic on a blackboard, or you use visual, or you use voice, or you use all different ways of getting information across a presentation, right? So when we speak in different tones according to the different roles that we're fulfilling. So if you imagine a man is talking to his business colleague, right? So he speaks to him as a businessman. Right, I'm not willing to, this is the best I can do for you. I'm not doing more than that. That's the best I can offer you, right? This is the deal. It's going to work like this. Now you listen to me, all right? I'm telling you that this is what is my best offer. So you say to your wife, I'm telling you, this is the most love I can give you, right? I'll give you 50% discount. It doesn't work. You can't talk to your wife with a business tone, right? I'll come back one second. Then there's the child and the parent tone, or the teacher to the pupil tone. You say, come, my dear. I'll tell you a story. Before I got married, I went to speak to a rabbi who was one of the counselors in Neve Yerushalayim. So I wanted to spend time with him and ask him to give me some insights about, marriage and choosing a wife, and what he had to say, teaching girls in seminar all the time. I wanted to ask him so we had a whole session. One of the things he said to me was he said in his counselling sessions, a couple came to see him. And he soon realised that they never really spoke. And he was speaking to his wife, and the man said, well, you speak to your wife? I can't believe it, right? And then there's this story. It's actually in a book of Rav Aaron Feldman, which is called The River, the Kettle, and the Bird. I don't know if it's still around so much, but it's a lovely, really clever book about marriage. And he says that this couple came for counselling, and they said, we've got a problem or whatever. So they said, tell me, do you spend time with your wife? He says, sure. He says, what do you do? He said, we learn Torah every day. Really? You learn Torah? What do you learn? He says, we learn the path of the just, Mesilat Yesharim, Musa. Every day, I come home from work, and we learn. He says, tell me, how do you learn it? He says, well, I come home, she makes me a cup of tea, and we sit down together, and then she tells me all the things that she did wrong that day, and I tell her how to correct it. And he was dead serious. He said, and I was yoitzi, I did my fulfillment of spending time with my wife. Twisted mind, right? That is not called affection. That's far away from affection, right? And plus, that's a teacher talking to a little child, the pupil. That's how the relationship is. That's how he saw his wife, as somebody that has to learn from him. Okay, he might have been a great rabbi. Who knows what learning he had behind him? But that's not healthy in a marriage to have that kind of dynamic. So, affectionate tones. A woman must never feel that her husband is using the business tone, because she's always going to feel there's no love there. It's just a business deal. Yeah. I'll teach you, just something popped into my mind. In one of the most important Kabbalistic books, the Etz Chaim, at the end, he talks about the different parts of the soul. And there's different levels to the soul, to the neshama. And one of the parts of the soul is like a robotic dynamic. That it just knows survival. You tell it to eat, it eats. The soul tells the body eat, and the body eats. Yeah? That means it doesn't know if it's kosher or it's not kosher, if it's tasty or not tasty. It just does what it's told. Right? And then there's a higher part to the soul which controls that part of the soul. And that higher soul is looking for meaning. So if it's kosher, it will feel you should eat it, and if not, you shouldn't. It has all these ethical, ideas and rules, and it controls the lower parts of the soul. And I was studying this with a great rabbi in Israel, and he said, most people, he said, I'm telling you, most people in the world are only being ruled and controlled by that lower soul, animalistic soul. He said, you know why? Because everything is a business deal for them. Everything is a business deal. There's no concept of l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, l'shem lishma. I need a wife, so she'll cook for me, so I'll look normal to the rest of society, and I'll be able to carry with my life, and I have all the things that I want to do personally, and my wife will fulfill all of that for me, right? And the wife also, a man with a nice job and a car and this and that, and then I'll be looked after, and then I can get on, and it's just survival. There's no working together for a greater goal, for the sake of being in the world, on a mission, a spiritual mission to achieve something in life. So I'm saying there's a certain part of a person that just is a business, and then what happens in the relationship, it comes out eventually in the way they talk to each other. If they're talking to each other, you do that and I'll do this. You do that, your turn, my turn. The whole of the marriage basically is an agreement. It's a business agreement. Why should I do that? You didn't do that. Right? I paid, I went to work, I got all this money, and you only it's just all a business deal. So when they start talking to each other, what you're hearing is a business tone, because really what's driving their whole involvement in the relationship is this lower level drive of something which is not for the right reasons. It's just a convenience relationship. I've got another seminar which is called The 7 Levels of Love. And it goes through 7 different types the Torah uses in the Tanakh, 7 different applications of the word love. And one of them is just compatibility, just being with somebody because it's compatible. We ended up together. It suits our lifestyles. We come from the same kind of community. We're going the same direction, right? It's a good thing along the 7 levels. It's like number 4, but at the end of the day, it's not a greater purpose in the marriage. So why am I saying that? Because affection will come naturally when a couple are naturally in love and they're going in the right direction and they love each other for themselves because they married the person that they wanted, their soulmate, that they want to share their lives with and go and do the things that they want to achieve together. And if they haven't got that, then it just becomes a convenience relationship, and you see these affectionate tones come out. So now let's lighten it up a bit. If you've been married for a while, and we live in a generation where we all use credit cards, okay, there's the dreaded sitting down and trying to explain to my wife why she spent too much more on her Visa card. And when the bill comes, right, I'm telling you, I can't talk to my wife about the Visa bill, right? I can't. She doesn't spend a fraction of what other women spend. But if I just want to talk to her about it, because I didn't do it right from the very beginning, I can't do it. I don't even try to do it. Okay, there's a joke. A man, he had his Visa card stolen. And a couple of years later, he was telling someone about it. He says, well, why don't you report it? He says, no, it cost me less money this way. It was his wife's card, I should have said it. So anyway, it's not fair to the women to make these jokes. My wife will kill me. But the point is that what would happen? Let's say a man does have a gripe. He feels that she spent more than he wanted. Yeah? He could be spending more than her, whatever. But in this example, he really genuinely wants to sit her down and talk to her about trying to make the expenses of the house expenses a little bit less. Obviously, the man is not, if he's not involved in going shopping, he doesn't know what it is to have to get everything. But he's just thinking, how can you spend that much? I just don't get it. I don't understand. Every week there's another jumper for another child, another school this and that. It goes on and on, never ends. Right? So if he wants to discuss it with her, so he is obviously coming in there, right, with a reason, a purpose, right? Because he feels he's got to get down the finances. So he already is looking at it as a business matter, okay? So if he's going to sit there with her and say, you know, you're spending too much there, we're going to cut that by 10%, then by 5%, and you only go shopping once a week, and right? So it becomes a business deal. She's going to turn off, because she's going to hear no affection from what he's saying. And there's no, if you take that example, if you want to be clever and sensible, there's no absolutely no purpose in speaking to her in a business tone, because you won't achieve it. If anything, it will make it worse. In that specific example, that's why I chose that example. If he would go to her and say to her, look, I really need to speak to you, you know I love you and you're wonderful and you know I married you because you're not materialistic and you don't waste and anything like that, but I've got this issue where I just don't know if we can get through, you know, with this kind of spending, we've got to find a way to cut it down, and you know, you're the best wife and you're very affectionate, right? Which way is she more likely to engage the actual topic and pay attention to what he's saying? The first way or the second way? No question, you have a better chance with the second way. But we won't do that. We'll come in there marching in. Oh, look at this bill. That's unbelievable. How am I supposed to put you on for me? You're kidding me, right? It becomes a business deal. Yep. So I'm trying to say is that even in that example where it is a business matter, using the business tone doesn't work. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't achieve anything. And it was a big eye-opener for myself in my life, already in marriage, when I had this acknowledgement of this point. That why do that when it's not going to work? It's a waste. It's a waste of energy. It's a bad strategy. It's not going to achieve the goal. No point doing it. So I've got to stop myself as a man. If I'm ever speaking to my wife in anything other than an affectionate tone, there's nothing actually ever that you can give me as an example that it would actually be better to use anything other than an affectionate tone.
Well, if she respects you for being a good businessman.
But you're not doing business right now.
But no, you are handling finances.
Yeah, but when you're talking to her human being and her feelings. She's not going to accept what you're saying. She won't accept it more by doing it because you're teaching it. You're then turning her into a little kid or somebody that you want to take one of your staff at work and you want to boss them around and say, this is how the finance department has put it together. This is what the rules we're following. This is our strategy. Yes, if you're building a business with her, and you're having a business meeting about your finances, that's something else. If you're actually planning the month ahead and what you're going to spend, so then you can do a proper business plan, and that's wonderful. But if you're trying to tell her off for doing something, that's really what's going on here. I'm coming on to tell her that you're spending too much. Anything but an affectionate tone will achieve nothing more. Yeah? And what I'm saying is that the truth is anything, whether it's you're not happy with something that happened with the kids or anything that you have to talk about. Your mother, her mother, you don't want to, whatever, you got some complaint about her mother, right? If you use anything other than an affectionate tone, if you actually analyze and look at it, it will never accomplish anything more. Yeah, we think it will. I want to show her that I'm angry, so I'm going to shout. I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to act like a parent. How dare you do this? You know, and I'm going to patronize her and make her feel like a child. And I'm going to be the parent, and she's going to be the child to get my point across. Will it achieve anything that way? Do you think she's going to say, "Oh, I really am a child, and you really are a parent, and I really do feel like you're telling me off, and you're right. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again." It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So affectionate tones don't work. And I'll tell you another insight. I know we've gone over the time. But it's not going to be that much more. You know what? Maybe we'll stop it and we'll carry on next week with this because I can see it's gone over the time. There's no point hurrying it. We'll carry on with session one, part 2, the next one. But this point I'm going to say to you is a very powerful, it's a counselling point that was taught to me by another counsellor in marriage counselling. A much more experienced person at the time. And it's absolutely phenomenal. Let's take an example. I think that year when I was dealing with it, it was like, say it's Pesach, okay? And the wife, she wants that all the Pesach stuff will be stored downstairs under the stairs in a cupboard. So she says, when I get to Erev Pesach next year, I don't have to wait for my husband to go to the loft and bring it all down, okay? So I put it somewhere where I can get to and I'm not stuck, yeah? And I don't want to be in a garden where there's going to be cobwebs and things like that and all kinds of mildew and mold and stuff like that, right? I had these 3 cases like this, yeah? And they're arguing about it. He's like, no, it's not the place to put it. I'm telling you, I'll put it up there. I'll always go and get it for you. And they're arguing, yes, no, you my way, your way, and going on and on and on. And they both think that if they one more time state their case in a more logical way, the other person will get it. And they'll keep on at loggerheads, right? You come to an impasse which you cannot get past it. It's a complete wall. Because he's absolutely sure that his logic is sound. If I'll only say it one more time with a bit more explanation, she's bound to understand it. And if she doesn't understand it, I marry a woman that doesn't have the logic that I understand? She's supposed to be my wife, the person that I'm more closer to and familiar with than anyone else in the world. I don't care if it's a neighbour, but she's my wife. If she doesn't see my logic, if she doesn't respect my opinion, so who did I marry? Well, I'm stuck over here. I married the wrong person, right? Because of these silly plates, right? And she's thinking, gosh, you know, to suffer so much. The pressure he's putting on me all the time. Why can't he just listen to what I want? And listen to me. When I speak to my friend, she understands me so well. Why can't he understand me? That's how I feel, right? I just wish he just to respect my view and show me that he cares for me, he should give and do what I want, right? Because of what I'm asking. So she'll say, just, if you love me, just do this for me, right? She's like, no, but it's not logical. It's the principle of it, right? So what happens in that situation? How do we get out of that situation? It's a very difficult situation. It's a very practical one because it happens a lot. So first of all, when it comes to any arguments, I would suggest to you that you have a rabbi or a mediator, a third party that you both trust. Really, really important in a relationship. I have one. If I need to tell my wife something and I know she won't listen to me, I ring him up and I say, look, maybe you could speak to her. And she does the same. For years, yeah, he's a very high caliber rabbi that I actually, someone I learned with, smicha with, and it works. Because why? We both trust him. And now what happens? Sometimes it's halakha, so there's an answer. Sometimes there isn't an answer. Because you're both right. You both want to do what you want to do, and they're both stubborn people. So what you need to do, you ring up somebody who understands what's been going on, the history of it. Says, this time, you have to give him. And you say, I remember last time he gave in, so now you have to give in. Right? Now, you can't say to your wife, last time I gave in, so now this time you have to give in. She'll say, yeah, but that was only a small little thing. Before that, I did something much bigger. You cannot win. Right? You cannot be the judge of that situation. You need a higher authority who you both trust, who can subjugate yourself or subordinate yourself to their da'at. Yeah? It's very important. Because that person is impartial, has no reason, has no agenda to take sides, and wants the family to be happy. It's a family rabbi, and they'll say, look, even I'm a rabbi, I have a rabbi. It's very important. Everyone needs to have that. Yeah? Because they're impartial. So that's why we're around it. Now, in our specific case, let's reanalyze this situation. Probably we'll stop after that. What's going on over here? He is so bent on using his logic to prove that he's right. Because for men, quite often, problem solving is a very big factor in their lives. We'll see when we get to communication. One of the biggest problems is that when a woman asks her husband something, she, in 99.99999% of the time, has no interest of his opinion whatsoever. She doesn't care what he's going to say, and she doesn't want him to solve any problems, right? Or get involved with solving any problems, or talking to anybody on the phone about it, or anything like that. She just wants to tell him what's going on and say he should understand what she feels. That's what it is. The man doesn't get it. You see, you're talking to me, I'm Tarzan. I've got to solve the problem. I'm Rambo or whatever. I'm a problem solver. I'm a scientist. I'm a professor. And if I don't solve it, that means I'm a failure. So I have to find a way to be your hero and solve your problem, right? And she hasn't got a problem. He's inventing, he's the problem. Right? We'll see that in the communication. So now in this case, what are they doing to each other? They're damaging each other. He feels, you know what, I'm a guy going the world, if anybody messes with me, I've floored them. No problem. I'm not scared of anybody. No one, forget it. Don't mess with me. But if my wife doesn't believe in me as a man, I'm a schmatter. I can't even go in the streets and feel like a man. She doesn't even respect my view of the city place, right? What kind of marriage is this? No respect whatsoever, right? So what does he feel? Stress, failure, yeah, self-esteem. He feels like someone's punched him in the stomach, some big tough guy, some wrestlers come and got him in an arm lock and he can't get out of it. And he's stuck and he's pressured and life is terrible. His davening is terrible, his clients have to suffer, the church have to suffer, all because that's what he feels. And what does she feel? She feels, I've been abandoned on a desert island, all alone, and no one here to come and get me. And no father, no husband, no one, all alone, that's it. I'm completely alienated. He just doesn't understand what I'm feeling. I'm the only person in the whole world by myself. Now, if you look at what they're doing to each other from a health perspective, it's terrible. It's tragic. It's pressure. We know that stress-related illnesses are diabetes, chas v'shalom, heart disease, all the terrible things, cholesterol, all these things are all stress related. Yeah, I had more time. I tell you, I spoke to homeopaths and they said, why in the Jewish community that the men are coming to me in their 50s and they're having heart problems? I have to spend so much money on these weddings. It's so materialistic. Don't have these weddings, Rabbi. He's telling me, he's not a Jewish guy. He's saying, because I have half the staff that are coming to me with these problems. He said, and Shabbat is supposed to be a day of rest, and the women are more tired on Sunday. What kind of day of rest is it? What are you doing with your religion, Rabbi? Sort it out. That's what he said to me. Right? Very, very insightful. We have to ask ourselves what's going on over here. Right? Now, if a husband loves his wife, does he really want to put up that stress? What's more important, to win the argument with his logic, or for her to become ill? And if she loves him, every time chas v'shalom he stresses out, there's a calculation. Some medic will tell you that it could be so many seconds of his life, God forbid, every time he stresses out. So I want him to stress out. I don't want to stress out. I'd rather just do what you want, be healthy, right? But we're not thinking that when it's going on. We're not thinking, do I want to hurt my wife's feelings versus or win the argument? I just want to get my point across. But effectively what I'm doing by getting my point across is harming her health, and she's harming my health. So what do we do about it? What's the answer to this? This is a strategy. If you want to get this point now across of what's really important, the argument is not important. The care and the love and the health is more important. So somebody has to give in, right? So before you get to the rabbi to make the decision, this is what we could do. We could say to her, look, I feel that I just got punched in my stomach. I feel like I've got so much pain. You don't know, it really hurts me. And don't say why. The second you say because, she's going to have 10 opinions why you're wrong, and therefore your pain doesn't exist. It's not real. You're not feeling it. You can't tell a person what to feel. If someone says to you, if a woman is crying, and you say to her, don't cry, you're so silly to cry. What are you crying about? Right? You're telling her, don't feel. Turn your brain off. How can you do that? She is feeling it. You can't tell her you're not allowed to feel what you're feeling. You are. She is feeling it, right? And that's what's going on over here. There's a reality. The reality is he feels that I'm not respected. It's like that guy just punched me in the stomach. I could even take a blow from a guy, and I can't even take this from my own wife, right? Now, how do I get her to understand what it's doing to me? That's the point. So I say to her, I feel really, really hurt. And what I do is to let her calm down and hopefully turn around and say to you, why do you feel hurt? Right? And then you could say, because I feel like somebody punched me in the stomach, and talk about the pain and don't talk about the argument, just so you can synchronize as to what's really going on over here. And talk to each other in terms of what's really happening. Yeah? And she'll say, well, I feel like I feel like I'm abandoned completely. I'm all alone in the world, alienated. That's how I feel. So, and he'll say, why? I say, because you make me feel that way. I look, don't feel bad, but that's what's going on. And then that, hopefully, if they love each other and it's done the right way, will bring to the surface what's really going on. And then if you see what's really going on and can connect to it, then the issues of the argument become really trivial compared to that. Because I stop and think, especially if it's been rehearsed and discussed in the past, like in the seminar. So then, when it's actually happening, you can say, hang on a minute, what am I doing over here? I'm making it ill. I want to make her ill. Well, I'm going to go. I married my wife to have an argument with her to make her ill and for her to suffer, and I'm doing that to her, and I'm the bad guy. Forget the plates. Do what you want. But we don't think in that way, so we have to train ourselves to think in that way. Okay? So let's just quickly recap. Men and women are different. How different? Very different. Right? Why? Because women are relationship beings. If women are relationship beings, then men are not. And if they're not, what do they need? They need a job. Okay, what's the job? To make his wife happy. When? All the time. All the time. And how does he do it? Attention, affection, appreciation. We explain attention means undivided attention with eye contact. Practice it for 2 minutes a day, every day, until we meet again. Is God. And then also 20 minutes to give her when you come home, or she comes home. 20 minutes is her time. She can do it any time that she wants. If you can't take any more, you can say I'm full, or carry on later on. Next day will be another 20 minutes, hopefully. Yeah, and that's attention. Affection, affectionate touch, affectionate tones. The other two I'll tell you quickly, we'll do next week, are love notes and calling once a day to show that you're giving her affection, not attention, affection. Calling the phone call there is an affectionate phone call. It's not attention. Okay, we'll talk about that better. So next week, and then we'll also be able to do the last thing, which is appreciation. And as Hashem will be able to show how a woman can be happy with all those things. if you want to stay a bit longer and ask any questions, you're welcome to, but I know some people have got babysitters and they need to get back. I hope we'll see everybody again this time next week, and we'll carry on Bezrat Hashem and then move on to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn the camera off, and then I'll go
This
back
one?
there.